Hello. The sound of breaking glass jolted me awake at 3 a.m. Not from my bedroom. It came from my home office downstairs. As CEO of a cybersecurity firm, my first thought was corporate espionage. I grabbed the Glock from my bedside safe and moved silently through the darkness, my bare feet careful on the hardwood stairs. Olivia wasn't beside me in bed, but that wasn't unusual lately. My wife of 5 years often worked late at her law firm, especially since making partner last year. The office door was ajar, soft lamplight spilling into the hallway. I heard rustling papers and muttered curses in a male voice I didn't recognize. My pulse quickened as I approached, weapon ready. But what I saw through the crack in the door stopped me cold. Olivia was there, wearing only her silk robe, helping a shirtless man rifle through my desk drawers. The broken glass was from a framed photo of our wedding day, now shattered on the floor. I recognized the man, Ryan Davidson, her colleague from the firm. The pieces started falling into place. Her late nights, the sudden business trips, the growing emotional distance between us. "It has to be here somewhere," Ryan muttered. "The prenup copy. Jack's too smart not to keep one." "Keep looking," Olivia hissed. "Once we find it, we can figure out how to break it. Then I can divorce him and take half of everything, including the company shares." My hand tightened on the gun as rage and betrayal coursed through me. The prenup they were searching for was actually in my bank vault, along with other crucial documents. I'd learned early in life to keep what mattered most far from prying hands. But they didn't need to know that. I pushed the door open. "Looking for something?" They froze like deer in headlights. Ryan reached for his discarded shirt where I glimpsed a concealed weapon. "Don't," I warned, keeping my Glock trained on him. "Hands where I can see them." "Jack, baby, this isn't what it looks like," Olivia started, clutching her robe closed. I laughed bitterly. "Really? Because it looks like my wife is helping her lover break into my office to steal legal documents so she can try to take my company in a divorce. Did I miss anything?" "You don't understand," she pleaded. "Ryan and I are in love. We've been planning this for months. If you just sign over some shares and agree to a settlement." "Months?" The word felt like acid in my mouth. "How long exactly has this been going on?" "A year," Ryan smirked, clearly thinking he had the upper hand. "Right under your nose. While you were busy building your precious company, I was building something else with your wife. Several times a week, in fact. Sometimes in your bed." I saw red. But years of business negotiations had taught me to channel anger into calculated action. "Interesting," I said coldly. "So you've been documenting your affair for a year? Photos? Texts? Hotel receipts?" The smirk faltered. "What's it to you?" "Oh, nothing much. Just that adultery clause in the prenup you're so desperate to find. The one that says if Olivia cheats, she gets nothing. Zero. Not even her own premarital assets once I prove she used them to fund her affair." The color drained from Olivia's face. "You're bluffing. That clause wasn't in there. Page 17, paragraph 3. Your lawyer should have read it more carefully before letting you sign. But then, you were so eager to marry a wealthy CEO, weren't you? Never imagined I'd be smart enough to protect myself." "You bastard," she spat. "You trapped me." "No, you trapped yourself. Now both of you are going to sit quietly while I call the police to report a breaking and entering. I'm sure they'll be very interested in that concealed weapon, Ryan. And Olivia. The firm's ethics board will love hearing how their newest partner conspired to steal privileged documents." Ryan lunged for his shirt. I fired a warning shot into the ceiling, making them both yelp. "Next one won't miss. Sit down." As I kept them covered and called 911, a strange calm settled over me. I'd lost a wife but saved myself from a devastating betrayal. The prenup would protect my assets, and the criminal charges would destroy their legal careers. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting consequences unfold naturally. But this was just the beginning. I had no intention of letting them off that easily, not after a year of lies and manipulation. As I heard sirens in the distance, I was already planning my next moves. They thought they were clever, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. This game of chess was far from over, and I intended to make every move count. The next few weeks were a masterclass in watching people self-destruct. After their arrest, Olivia and Ryan were released on bail, but their lives began unraveling faster than cheap sweaters. The law firm suspended them both pending investigation. Their colleagues, who I'd cultivated relationships with over the years, were disgusted by their behavior. Nothing kills a legal career quite like attempting to steal privileged documents. But I wasn't satisfied with just watching from the sidelines. During our marriage, Olivia had shared countless confidential details about her cases and clients, usually while drinking her favorite expensive wine. I'd remembered everything, waiting for the right moment. Now, I anonymously tipped off the State Bar Association about multiple ethics violations. An investigation was launched immediately. I also discovered that Ryan had been embezzling from the firm's client trust accounts to fund their lavish affair, 5-star hotels, weekend getaways, jewelry for Olivia. Anonymous tips went out to the firm's financial audit team and the FBI's white-collar crime division. The evidence was damning. Olivia tried reaching out multiple times, alternating between threats and tearful pleas. "We can work this out," she begged outside my office one day. "I'll sign whatever you want. Just call off the bar investigation." I looked at her designer outfit, bought with stolen money, and felt nothing but contempt. "Remember last Christmas?" I asked conversationally. "When you said you had to miss our family dinner for an emergency client meeting?" She paled slightly. "Jack, please. You were actually at the Peninsula with Ryan. Presidential suite, champagne, room service. I have the receipts, the security footage, everything. You chose to spend Christmas fucking your colleague instead of being with your husband. Actions have consequences, Olivia. How did you know about the Peninsula?" I smiled coldly. "I know everything. Every hotel, every restaurant, every weekend trip disguised as a business conference. I've known for months, gathering evidence while you thought you were so clever. The question isn't how I knew. It's why you thought you could fool someone who builds cybersecurity systems for a living." Her face crumpled. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I already have everything I need. But watching you lose everything you worked for? That's priceless." "You're a monster," she whispered.
No, ima buzinas man.
"You tried to leverage personal relationships to steal my company. This is just hostile takeover defense, executed perfectly. The only difference is that most hostile takeovers don't involve finding another man's DNA in my bed." She flinched at that. "Good. By the way," I added as she turned to leave, "remember that charity board position you were so proud of? The one that made you look like such a philanthropist? I had lunch with the board chairman yesterday. Showed him some interesting financial documents. They voted unanimously to remove you this morning. Good luck with your reputation in this city." The tears started falling then. Real ones, not the manipulative drops she'd perfected over the years. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I never meant for. Save it for your disciplinary hearing." I cut her off. "I'm sure the Bar Association will be fascinated by your explanation of why you tried to steal confidential documents. Almost as fascinated as the FBI is about those missing client funds." As she walked away, shoulders shaking, I felt a mix of satisfaction and emptiness. The revenge was sweet, but it highlighted how much time I'd wasted with someone who saw me as nothing but a wealth extraction opportunity. Still, I wasn't done. Not even close. Ryan and Olivia had played their game thinking they were the only ones willing to break rules. They never considered that I might be better at it than them. Phase 2 of my plan was about to begin, and it would make these first few weeks look like a gentle warning shot. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about destroying someone's present. It's about systematically dismantling their future. And I was just getting started. Late one night in my office, reviewing the latest reports from my private investigators, I found myself staring at our wedding photo on my phone. 5 years of memories, tainted by lies. The image of Olivia in her white dress now seemed like a costume worn by an actress playing a part. I deleted the photo and poured another scotch, letting the burn in my throat match the one in my chest. The investigation into Ryan's embezzlement had revealed something unexpected. He had a gambling addiction and massive debts to some dangerous people. He'd been using the stolen client funds to pay them off, but now that source had dried up. My anonymous tip to his creditors about his current financial situation had set off a chain reaction I hadn't anticipated. Ryan disappeared 3 days ago. His car was found abandoned at the airport, but no record of him boarding any flights. Olivia was frantic, leaving increasingly desperate messages on my voicemail. I played them on speaker while working late, her panic a soundtrack to my evening. "Jack, please," her latest message pleaded. "I know you're behind this somehow. Ryan's missing, and I'm scared. These men showed up at my apartment last night, looking for him. They said they'd come back. I need help." I deleted the message without responding. The men she mentioned weren't my doing. They were Ryan's gambling debts coming home to roost. But I had made sure they knew exactly where to look for him. Sometimes the best revenge is simply removing the obstacles that prevent justice from taking its natural course. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Martinez, my contact at the police department. "Check your email. You need to see this." The surveillance photos in the email showed Ryan at the Canadian border, attempting to cross with a fake passport. He'd been caught and was now in federal custody. The second photo showed the contents of his laptop, recovered from the car. Emails between him and Olivia detailed not just their affair, but a long-term plan to take control of my company through corporate espionage. They'd been gathering insider information, planning to sell it to my competitors once they had forced me out. I forwarded everything to my lawyers. The criminal charges for attempted theft of trade secrets would be the final nail in their professional coffins. But as I sat there, reading their intimate exchanges about destroying my life, I felt a hollow ache beneath the satisfaction. These were people I had trusted, brought into my life, shared dreams with. Olivia had known my deepest fears and insecurities, then systematically used them against me. The next morning, I had a breakfast meeting with Thomas Chen, the managing partner of Olivia's law firm. He'd been my friend for years, long before I met Olivia. The betrayal had hit him hard too. He'd mentored both Olivia and Ryan. "The firm's filing criminal charges," he informed me, sliding a document across the table. "The missing client funds, the attempted corporate espionage. It's over $2 million in total. They're both facing serious prison time." I nodded, scanning the document. "And the other matter?" "Done. I spoke to every major law firm in the Northeast. None of them will touch either of them as clients. They're radioactive." He paused, stirring his coffee. "Jack, I have to ask. Did you know? Before the break-in, I had suspicions," I admitted. "But I needed proof that would stand up in court. So I waited, watched, documented everything. Let them think they were pulling off the perfect crime while they dug their own graves." Thomas shook his head. "Remind me never to cross you." "It's not about crossing me," I said quietly. "It's about consequences. They didn't just betray my trust. They tried to destroy everything I've built, hurt everyone who depends on my company for their livelihood. Actions that selfish deserve repercussions." As I drove to the office afterward, I got another voicemail from Olivia. This time, she was sobbing about FBI agents at her door. I smiled, thinking about the evidence they were about to find in her apartment. Evidence I'd made sure would be there. Phase 3 was about to begin, and it would make everything so far look like child's play. Sometimes revenge isn't just about destroying someone's present or future. It's about making sure they fully understand the magnitude of their mistakes. And I was about to deliver that lesson in a way they'd never forget. Sitting in my therapist's office, I found myself examining the past few months with a strange sense of detachment. Dr. Anderson had been my counselor long before meeting Olivia. She'd helped me process my parents' toxic divorce 20 years ago. Now she watched as I unpacked the wreckage of my own marriage. "You've orchestrated a perfect destruction of their lives," she observed, her tone neutral. "How does that feel?" I considered the question carefully. "Empty," I finally admitted. "Successful but empty. Like winning a game you never wanted to play." The FBI investigation had revealed more than just financial crimes. Ryan's laptop contained evidence that Olivia had sabotaged my previous relationships years ago, systematically manipulating events to position herself as my perfect match. She'd hired private investigators to dig up dirt on my ex-girlfriends, created artificial conflicts, all while playing the supportive friend. Our entire relationship had been built on calculated deception. The thing that haunts me, I continued, isn't the affair or the attempted theft. It's realizing that every intimate moment, every vulnerable conversation, every shared dream, it was all tactical. She studied me like a target, using my past trauma to optimize her approach. Who does that? Someone profoundly broken themselves, Dr. Anderson suggested. Have you considered that your methodical revenge might mirror her tactical manipulation? The observation hit harder than I expected. Maybe, I acknowledged. But there's a difference between justice and manipulation. She orchestrated years of lies to steal what I built. I'm simply ensuring consequences for her choices. Last week, those consequences had escalated dramatically. The FBI's forensic accountants had traced the stolen client funds through a complex web of offshore accounts. They discovered Olivia had been embezzling long before Ryan entered the picture. He was just another pawn in her game. The total amount stolen approached $5 million. When they arrested her at her sister's house, where she'd been hiding since Ryan's disappearance, she tried to blame everything on him. But I'd already ensured the investigators had emails proving she was the mastermind. Her sister, watching FBI agents handcuff her, finally saw the truth about the sister she'd always defended. I visited her in detention, I told Dr. Anderson. Not to gloat, I needed to understand why. Know what she said? That I made it too easy. That someone who trusts so completely deserves to be betrayed. And how did that make you feel? Like she never knew me at all. I stood and walked to the window, watching rain streak the glass. She saw my capacity for trust as weakness. She never understood it was a conscious choice, that I'd learned from my parents' dysfunction and chose to be different. But I also learned something else from them, how to fight back when necessary. The news of their indictment had broken that morning. 37 counts including fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted corporate espionage. The prosecutors were seeking maximum sentences. But I'd arranged something even worse than prison: complete, irrevocable professional destruction. The Bar Association's Ethics Committee meets tomorrow, I said. I made sure they have evidence of every client confidence she's ever breached, every ethical line she's crossed since law school. She won't just lose her license. She'll become a case study in what not to do as an attorney. Her name will literally be taught in legal ethics classes as a cautionary tale. That seems important to you, Dr. Anderson noted, making her a lesson for others. Because that's what she made me, I replied quietly. A lesson in why you shouldn't trust. So I'm returning the favor, making her a lesson in why you shouldn't betray. The next phase was already in motion. Tomorrow, every major legal publication would run the story of their crimes. But not just the facts, the whole psychological profile. How a talented lawyer systematically manipulated her way into marriage with a wealthy CEO, while simultaneously stealing from clients and planning his destruction. The articles would examine every decision, every manipulation, every character flaw that led to her downfall. I'd given exclusive interviews to the journalists, sharing carefully selected details that painted a picture of calculated evil versus earned success. The public loved a story of justice served. By the time I was done, the name Olivia Mitchell would be synonymous with betrayal and consequence. Do you think you'll ever trust again? Dr. Anderson asked as our session ended. I gathered my coat, considering the question. I never stopped trusting, I said finally. I just got better at verifying, and at making sure betrayal carries a price too high to risk paying. As I left her office, my phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Everything was in place for the final phase. Tomorrow would bring a reckoning that would make all the previous consequences seem gentle by comparison. Because sometimes, the most devastating revenge isn't what you do to someone. It's what you make them realize about themselves. The last time I saw Olivia was on the day of her sentencing. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as she stood before the judge in her orange jumpsuit, all traces of her former polished elegance stripped away. The woman who'd once commanded courtrooms with confident authority now seemed small, diminished by the weight of her choices. Her parents sat in the front row, their shoulders bent with shame. They'd mortgaged their house to pay for her defense, only to watch her plead guilty to all charges. The evidence was too overwhelming for any other option. Ryan had already been sentenced to 12 years, his gambling debts and attempted flight making him a flight risk that precluded any leniency. Before I pronounce sentence, the judge said, "Would you like to make a statement, Mrs. Mitchell?" Olivia turned, her eyes finding mine in the gallery. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the woman I thought I'd married, vulnerable, seemingly genuine. But I'd learned to recognize her manipulations. "I've had a lot of time to think in detention," she began, her voice trembling. "About who I've become, about the choices I made, the people I've hurt." She paused, tears falling. "Especially my husband, who gave me nothing but love and trust, which I systematically destroyed. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want the court to know that I understand the magnitude of my betrayal." The judge wasn't moved. "Mrs. Mitchell, your crimes weren't just about betraying your husband. You violated the fundamental trust of your profession, stole from clients who depended on you, and attempted to destroy a company that employs hundreds of people. Your actions show a pattern of calculated manipulation and ruthless self-interest that this court finds particularly disturbing." The sentence came down like a hammer. 15 years in federal prison, restitution of all stolen funds, permanent disbarment, and restrictions on future employment in any fiduciary capacity. The life she'd carefully crafted was officially over. As they led her away, she tried one last time to catch my eye. I stood and walked out, her unspoken plea hanging in the air behind me. Outside, reporters waited with cameras and microphones, eager for a statement from the wronged husband. "Mr. Mitchell, how do you feel about the sentence?" I paused, considering my words carefully. "Justice isn't about feeling good," I said finally. "It's about accountability. Today, the court held my wife accountable for her choices. That's all I've ever wanted." Later that evening, I sat in my home office, the room where everything had unraveled that night months ago. The broken wedding photo had been replaced with a different image, a black and white photograph of a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves. A reminder that stability comes from within, not from others. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas Chen. "Just saw the news. You okay?" "Getting there," I replied. Then, after a moment, "Had dinner with Katie from corporate accounting last night. The redhead who helped with the audit? Bold move. How'd it go?" I smiled, remembering her sharp wit and genuine laugh. She asked about Olivia. I told her everything: the affair, the theft, the revenge.
No hiding, no sugarcoating.
Know what she said? "What?" "That trust isn't about finding someone who'll never hurt you. It's about being strong enough to risk pain for something real." Setting down my phone, I opened my laptop to review the day's company reports. Life was moving forward. The press coverage of Olivia's sentencing would cement her story as a cautionary tale in legal and business circles. My revenge was complete, not through any final dramatic act, but through the simple, inexorable working of consequences. I thought about Dr. Anderson's questions about trust and manipulation. Maybe Olivia was right. I had made it easy for her. Not because I was weak, but because I'd chosen to believe in the possibility of genuine connection. That choice had cost me dearly, but it hadn't broken me. Instead, it had revealed a strength I didn't know I possessed. The sun was setting outside my office window, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. I poured a glass of scotch and raised it in a silent toast, not to revenge or justice, but to survival. To the understanding that while trust can be a weapon used against us, it's also the tool we use to rebuild. Tomorrow I had a second date with Katie. I'd chosen a quiet restaurant where we could talk without pretense. She wasn't Olivia. She didn't need the expensive glamour or social status. Her integrity showed in small moments, in the way she treated others when she thought no one was watching. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's life. It's about rebuilding your own, stronger than before. As I watched the last light fade from the sky, I felt something I hadn't expected: peace. Not because of what I'd done to Olivia and Ryan, but because of what their betrayal had failed to do to me. They'd tried to destroy me and ended up destroying themselves. While I'd lost a marriage built on lies, I'd found something more valuable: the unshakable knowledge that I could survive betrayal without becoming bitter, could execute justice without losing my humanity, and could still choose to trust despite knowing the cost of betrayal. That, in the end, was the sweetest revenge of all. Thank you for listening the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments and do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next videos. Bye.